this is Robin Trott. I am the University of Minnesota Extension horticulture educator in Douglas County, and my husband and I also own a cut flower farm in Pope County, Minnesota. And today I will be presenting Grow Rainbow, annual flowers for color and purpose. Annual flowers, they bloom more quickly and for a longer period than any other group of flowers out there. Annual flowers offer a gardener a chance to experiment with color, height, texture, and form. And annual flowers can provide a massive display of color in the garden. Annuals are useful for filling spaces where perennial flowers have died, or to cover areas where spring flowering bulbs have died back. But before we talk about the flowers that you're going to plant, let's review a little bit of that color theory we learned in school. So in color theory, if you're familiar with the color wheel, we have several different categories of colors. We have your primary, analogous, secondary colors, complementary colors, and all of these other kinds of categories that if you can apply to the color scheme in your garden, you can really make a great impact with the annuals that you plant. And so we're going to talk about color schemes. By planning what colors to plant, the gardener creates a theme for the design. There are at least 6 different color schemes to choose from, and they mostly refer to the positions of that color on the color wheel. Each evokes a different psychological response. So we're going to talk about hue. That's the pure color on that color wheel. Tint is that pure color with a little bit of white added. Tone is that pure color with the white and black added. And then shade is the hue with the black added. So we will be using some of these terms, hues, tints, and shades, as we go along. So this is a good dictionary or an understanding of what those terms mean. So when we're talking about a monochromatic color scheme, you're using one color and its various tints and shades. And such themes provide a harmonious effect in your garden. Blue happens to be my favorite color, and so a blue color scheme, blue is a cool color, it's a calming color, and so I like to use blues in my garden if I can. The next color scheme we're going to talk about is the primary color scheme. Primary color schemes use the 3 primary colors, red, yellow, and blue. They are bright, they are energetic, especially when they're used together. And primary colors may be too visibly jarring for some people. This is easily corrected by using shades or tints of the primary colors together. So again, there's that shade and tint. Tints with white and shades with black in them. Analogous colors are those colors that are next to each other in the color wheel. And depending on whether the color is warm or the color is cool, can change the effect of these plants. So if you look, the warm colors are to the left of the color wheel, the cool colors are to the right of that one color wheel. So the warm colors are those oranges down to kind of purple, and the cool colors are your yellows, greens, and blues going to lavender. And again, it really changes the impact of your color. Those cool colors have a more relaxing, more soothing or calming kind of effect in your garden, whereas the warm range colors, those bright reds, those bright oranges, you can see they heat up your garden a little bit. So depending on where you choose to use these colors will impact the effect your garden has when you look at it. Now, complementary colors are those colors that are opposite each other on the color wheel. Each complementary color adds an intensity to that which is opposite. And so you've got your purples and yellows together, your red and greens, your blue and oranges together. Each of those make it pop. I particularly like the photo of the tulip and the grape hyacinth together, early spring bloomers, but they really accentuate each other in the garden and they make each other pop. So think about that when you're planning. And then those pastel colors again, when you just add a little bit of white to that, lighten up the colors, those really pale hues of those colors really give another soothing, calming effect, even if they're in the warmer area of the color wheel because you've toned them down a little bit. And then the riotous colors. Those riotous colors are best defined as the use of multiple colors in a vibrant, bold combination. This is most difficult scheme to achieve successfully. With the use of so many colors, you're going to have some that may clash, and then the human eye doesn't know where to focus. And so think about that when you're choosing these bright, vivid colors. Too many colors just makes it almost too much to take in for some people. It's too energetic, it's very stimulating. But if you use one of those bright colors in one of your other color schemes, you can certainly make an area pop in your garden and draw your eye to that particular location. So now we're going to talk about the different shades, the different hues of these colors on the color wheel, and the flowers that you can use to have those colors in your garden. So for red, now red in a garden center or in a seed pack isn't going to necessarily mean that cherry red. It could be more of an orangey red. It could even be more of a purpley or a black kind of red. And so California poppies are a really good choice if you want a bright, vivid kind of orangey red. Celosias come in all sorts of colors. That's a coxcomb there on the page. That's more of a cherry red. Cosmos for sure can be chocolate cosmos. They can be a reddish brown. Dahlias come in all sorts of red colors. I have a picture of a dark red dahlia there, but there are brighter dahlias. Of course, geraniums you're familiar with. Gladiolas can be red. Impatiens, if you need red in the shade, impatiens are good. Nasturtiums. Salvia, snapdragons come in all sorts of shades. Sunflowers come in red. Generally, that red isn't a true bright kind of cherry red. It's a darker red. Sweet peas, verbena, and zinnias come in a variety of reds as well. If you look here, this is a picture of a card of our snapdragons, and you can see all the colors of the snapdragons, and those darker ones to the back right are the ones that they call red, and you can see there are a lot of different shades in there, bronzes, deep reds, and we also have some bright reds not in this photo. Here's another instance of we're going from kind of peachy pinky reds to the deeper reds in here. And so this snapdragon is called Madam Butterfly. It's a double snapdragon, very tall and does very well in the garden. Here's another red, white, and blue. I love this together. The two kind of pinkish and reddish snapdragons. These are Chantilly snaps, so they're open-faced, aligned with the delphinium there, really make a statement. Now, orange flowers are very common in the garden. You have a lot of flowers to choose from. I've just brought a couple of them yet. The African daisy is a beautiful example of an orange flower. Calendula, I love. Calendula is a gorgeous flower. Icelandic poppies, those are the ones to the right. They really have a lot of red and orange tones to them. Dahlias and geraniums can be orange as well. Marigolds, nasturtiums, pansies, the straw flower that's in the lower left-hand corner, and those are so much fun because they're dry when they open. And then zinnias again. Again, when we're talking orange, and as you can see on this page, oranges have a lot of different shades that run from a pale, almost yellow, all the way to almost red, every shade in between. I particularly like the salmon geranium that's down in the lower right-hand corner. That's one of my favorite colors to pair with my blues. And if you look here, this is your standard snapdragon. It's in an orange. There are some that are brighter. There's some that are darker. And this is Cosmos. And it's the sulfur Cosmos in the back there. That's the yellow and the orange. Generally, when people think of Cosmos, that beautiful annual that's really easy to start from seed in your garden, you think of more the pink shades or the whites. And Cosmos, the sulphurous, comes in the yellow or orange. This is one of my favorite celosias. It's a plumosa, and it's an orange, really striking color. What's fun about celosias is that the color extends to the veination of the leaves, and so those leaves will also have an orange tone to them. Now we're going with yellows, And the yellows can go, like I said, from that kind of orangey yellow all the way to a pale creamy yellow. So your calendulas and California poppies again, China asters, which are those in the center top, Cleome, which is the one on the right-hand side in the middle. Yes, Cleome does come in yellows. Cosmos, 4 o'clocks, that's the middle one, I think, the middle second one up. Nasturtiums, marigolds, pansies, portulaca comes in a nice yellow, and all of those others, the snapdragon stocks, strawflower, sunflowers, those are the ones that you are very familiar with in yellow, but did you know you can get a yellow center to those sunflowers as well? Sweet peas are a good cool season flower or shade flower, and zinnias also come in yellow. Sunflowers comes in a variety of forms, a variety of colors, and you have a lot to choose from. The great thing about sunflowers is that they're about 9 weeks from the time you plant that seed in the soil to the time you get the flower. And you can get sunflowers that are giant, that are 8 feet tall. You can get sunflowers that are 2 feet tall. Teddy bear sunflowers like the one on the lower right. All of these sunflowers are pollenless. Those are the types that we grow because we don't want to sell our cut flowers to florists and then have pollen get all over the place. But just keep in mind that a sunflower doesn't have to be yellow. It can be a variety of colors. And if you look here, these are some of the sunflowers that we have harvested, and you can see that variety of texture, form, and color in there. Now, green is a really interesting color to add to the garden because typically we think of green as the foliage, but green can also be in the inflorescence of the flower. So amaranthus can be green. Green thumb amaranthus down on the bottom right-hand corner of this page is a really nice, rough textured, very green amaranthus. Bells of Ireland, which is just above it, not only is it nice and tall and green, but it smells wonderful. Bupleurum is kind of a foliage plant, but does very well in Minnesota as an annual. You can start that from seed. You see the green celosia there. There are green gladiolas, green nicotiana down in the middle bottom, and sunflowers and zinnias can also be green. So look for those too, just to add something different to your garden. If you want to have that complementary color, red and green, there are green flowering plants that you can choose from. Now here is our green thumb amaranthus, and you can see we grow them in rows in our high tunnel, but they grow to about a foot tall. And they do, it's that nice spiky flower that we like to include in bouquets and our florists love. Now blues, here's the thing about blue. You will get something that is called blue and it's purple because there's not a lot of natural blue. There's not a lot of blue in nature, but there are some that are just about true blue. So the pimpernel is that blue pimpernel is the bottom right-hand corner. I would love to grow that. I have not. I have grown lobelia before in the shade, and that's a beautiful blue. Ageratum is blue. You've got your China aster, and that's that center, right smack in the center of all those photos. That China aster is such a beautiful blue. Lupine comes in blue. Pansies come in blue. Penstemon, scabiosa, and sweet pea, they all come in blue. And all of these, like I said, blue is my favorite color, so I'm going to pressure you to try these blue plants. They just add such a calming, soothing spot to your garden. And maybe if you put it in the shade, add a little bit of that orange to pop it up because orange is a complementary color to blue. Violet, here's your purples. These are often called blue. Don't be fooled. Let's look at it again. There's blue. That's purple in my book. So you've got your candy tuft, your China aster again. China asters are great. They're pretty, they grow very quickly, and you can have very large inflorescence. You can get much smaller blossoms. So they can be tall, they can be short. I would encourage you, if you've not tried the China asters, to take a look at them because they're beautiful. The Cleome again can come in blue. Foxglove, of course, is a blue plant. Pansies, we're all familiar with the blue pansies. Their status, and then Trichelium, which is in the upper right-hand corner, which is a puffy pom-pom of a blue or of a violet plant. So purple. I was saying blue, but I meant purple. And if you look here, these are the sweet peas that we grow. They come in a variety of colors. They do have that blue. But typically sweet peas you're going to find in those shades, not oranges, reds, or yellows. The whites, the pinks, the peachy colored sweet peas, and then darker blues and purples. Ageratum is a favorite of mine. Now you might be familiar with ageratum as a short little front of the garden edger plant, but you can get ageratums like Blue Horizons that grow to about 18 inches tall. We grow them for cuts, so we want the taller ones, but I love the look and the smell of ageratum. Now, talking about seeds. Seeds guarantee, the thing is, if you want to select a very specific color, your seeds, starting things from seed, is going to guarantee your best selection. It's pretty easy to start annuals from seed. You'll save money. And at this point, when it's still cold outside, today we had snow on the ground still, seeds satisfy that itch to garden. So you can garden inside, you can start your seeds indoors, and you're gardening before you're out in the garden, before you can get out in the garden. Also, it's a way of avoiding crowds. Remember, our local garden centers, they're going to plant those plants that are most popular, that they know they're going to be able to sell. And some of the more unusual varieties that you're going to find from seeds, some of the more unusual colors that you're going to find from seeds, they're not going to carry, because those aren't the ones that are the money makers. Those aren't the ones that people want from a garden center. And so think about that. Now, we start seeds, we start tens of thousands of seeds every year. One of our favorite tools is this vibrating hand seeder, and you put the seeds in that little chute, it vibrates and it drops one seed per cell. So that's the way we plant. That really saves time. Now, when you're thinking about starting seeds, you want to start with good seeds. Can you save seeds from year to year? Possibly, but if they're not saved in ideal conditions, the germination rate is going to decrease, and some flower seeds will go dormant if not planted within the first year of them being seeds. And so that breaking that dormancy of that seed is very difficult. So I would recommend, if you're new to starting seeds, or if the amount of seeds is really critical to you, either financially or because you need a certain amount in your garden, I would start with new seeds, seeds that are labeled for selling this year. The second thing you want to have is a sterile growing mix. Don't pull garden soil out. Don't pull used soil out of your pots. Go and buy yourself a good seed starting mix. That doesn't have any weed seeds in it. It doesn't have any insect eggs in it, and it doesn't have any disease in it. Start there. For your containers, for germinating seeds, yes, you can reuse containers, but please clean them out and then bleach them with a solution of about 2 tablespoons of bleach to a gallon of water. That's all you need. Soak it well for a little bit, let it dry out in the sun. Clear plastic domes are great to keep the moisture in those cells while they're germinating. Some plants need heat, so a heating pad is always good. One that you can control the temperature is the best. Grow lights, we use shop lights. We use 4-foot-long shop lights. You don't need a special light. You don't need a special fixture. You can use a 40-watt, a shop light that takes 2 40-watt bulbs, and that's fine. You want larger containers for growing on. That means when your seedling gets to a size where it's ready to leave your small container, you want to bump it up to the next size up. If you're going to keep it in your house under your lights that long, that's a good deal. If you wait a little bit longer, maybe you can plant them right into the garden. It's always good to grow, if you're starting from seed inside, grow them so that they're a good size before you put them out, because if they're too small, they're really hard to keep hydrated. They're really hard to continue growing. You want to have a good fertilizer. Remember that your fertilizer, many of those organic fertilizers are made from kelp or fish meal or things like that. Those stink inside. So make sure before using a fertilizer indoors on your plants that you know what it's going to smell like. And then the last thing you need to remember is, if you start seeds inside, you need to nurture them. You need to check on them regularly. You need to make sure they never dry out, because you don't want those tiny little roots that are developing to get too dry. And you don't want to water them too much. You don't want them to get waterlogged. You don't want to over-fertilize, but neither do you want to under-fertilize. How long does it take seeds to grow to transplant size? Well, how soon can you plant it out, and what is the cold tolerance of that seed? There are some plants like snapdragons that can take a little frost on them. Other plants like marigolds, basil, things like that, that they get near 32, they're toast. So think about that. Look up your annual average frost-free date, figure out what zone you're in, and then find out what that frost-free date is. Count back from that, look at your seed packet. It's going to tell you how far in advance to plant them, or when you need to think about that frost-free date. And then think about planting succession. So maybe you start your first succession indoors, and then the rest of the time you are planting things directly into your soil, into your garden. When seedlings are grown inside in a controlled climate, they don't have the opportunity to develop the strength and structure to live out in the elements. They need to get acclimated to their new home. This is true even for those things that you get in a garden center, because even though a garden center might be a greenhouse where the sun is coming through, being out in the elements is a totally different environment for them. So you want to take those plants and gradually get them used to the outside. Make sure that it's going to be over 50 degrees at night for most plants, reliably. You can take them out, you can put them under trees to start. We start ours under a shade cloth and then move it to the sun gradually, about 3 days under the shade cloth with exposure to the wind, with exposure to the rain. Those are all things that can prepare these plants to be put outside. When you plant them on a cloudy day if possible, then they won't be having to deal with different soil, different location, different degree of light, all of that. So a cloudy day is the least stressful for plants. For tender annuals, plant when the nighttime temperatures are reliably above 50 degrees. Arrange the plants in their pots in the pattern you want to follow, and then pop them out. Space the plants according to what their mature size is going to be. It's so easy to put those little seedlings too close because they're so small. No, remember, this little tiny seedling might grow to be a 2-foot wide plant. So space them accordingly. Water them well immediately after planting. Typically, I water the hole they're going to go into. I put them in and then I water them again. And then mulch, mulch, mulch. Mulch is your key tool to keeping your soil moist and cool, to keeping those plant roots moist and cool, and to keep disease and weeds out of your garden. So if you can put a layer of mulch 2 to 4 inches deep, doesn't have to be a fancy mulch you buy at the store, but just make sure it's not a mulch that's going to contain perhaps weed killer in it, like grass clippings or something like that that have been treated with weed killer. So maintenance for your garden. Plants need about 1 inch of water a week. Deadhead your annuals to keep them looking fresh. That means when one of the blooms kind of fades, because they will do that throughout the season, just pick that off. Identify the best. If you have a pest, keep your eyes out for pests, and then identify the pest if you know how to treat it. So you know how to treat it. Keep the garden weed free. Weeds can be pest and disease vectors, and they compete for the nutrients and the water in the soil. Fertilize when needed, either with a slow release fertilizer or once every 2 weeks at half strength or a full week, 4 weeks at full strength, and keep plants clean by clearing out dead or dying material. So once you have it established, once you've got your garden, the possibilities open up, and you can change your theme each year, and you can even alter it season to season, much like a painter choosing a palette. I particularly like the painter Claude Monet, and he perhaps owes, this is a quote from him, I perhaps owe having become a painter to flowers. So Claude Monet is, again, my favorite painter. Resources, if you'd like to start your seeds, one of the best resources out there is tomclothier.hort.net. It's Tom Clothier's Garden Walk and Talk, and they have a seed germination database for annuals and perennials, for vegetables, talks about disease and all sorts of things. There's also, USDA has seed germination theory and practice. I really like Johnny Seeds because they have interactive tools. They will help you figure out what your frost-free date is. They'll help you figure out when to start your seeds. Dave's Garden is a nice place to go if you want to learn a little bit about plants. And then if you go to Extension, you can find all sorts of things, 100 Food Gardening 101, plant seeds, and your success. So thank you for coming today. If you have any questions, you can contact me via my email. And if you'd like a handout that covers some of these things, please let me know. And once I get access to a printer, I will send that to you. Thanks very much for joining me today, and have a great day. Thank you.